Unleash the power of recovery and take control of your injury flare-ups with this ultimate guide. Flare-ups can be horrible both physically and mentally. Not only are you more miserable due to more pain, but mentally you can start to question everything. Like, will I ever get back to pain-free running? Is there something else going on that might have been missed by my medical staff? Do I need scans? Do I need surgery? This combination of physical and mental misery can spiral out of control. But have the reassurance to know that while we try our best to prevent flare-ups, they are quite common in the recovery process. This is why I want to introduce a flare-up guide in step 6 of this 10-step journey, all designed to help you overcome your running injury. I'll also be applying these 10 steps to injured runners like you and documenting their journeys to show how impactful these principles can be. Subscribe to keep up to date on the channel to see when more of these journeys are released. If you haven't done so already, it's really important to start at step 1, which this link above will take you to. Like I said earlier, flare-ups, they're common. After all, from what we've learned so far, your rehab journey is all about progressing within your adaptation zone, to which the boundaries are hard to identify. Not only are we unsure if a certain progression will cross into that overload territory, but lifestyle factors can unknowingly lower this line. So it's only natural and a part of the rehab process that sometimes we surpass this zone and experience an increase in symptoms. This is an example of a flare-up due to these careful experimentations that go on. But more severe flare-ups can occur if you become too eager or too confident or too impatient throughout the rehab process. When this happens, you'll likely overshoot the mark and, as a result, more severe symptoms will increase. Take our journey with Cody, for example. After making the modifications to his gardening, Cody was moving from strength to strength. In 3 short weeks, he was able to run 30 minutes pain-free and had increased to full range squats and heavier step-ups. He felt unstoppable. One weekend, a longer run felt too good to pass up, and he went out for 45 minutes and felt so strong he accidentally ran a lot faster than he planned. Later that day, his symptoms returned, and the next day, Cody experienced the same pain going upstairs that he had experienced in week 1. He felt like he was back to square one from one stupid mistake. Has this ever happened to you? Me too. You're not alone. This isn't the end of the world though, and while it may seem like you are back to square one, the previous weeks you've dedicated to your strength training would have built a bigger foundation and the flare-up will settle a lot quicker. You can also be more proactive than you think. For example, remember back in step 2 when I told you to find your injury's adaptation zone? Well, now you can repeat that step. Whatever you can tolerate within acceptable pain limits should be continued until symptoms settle. But there are also some guidelines we can follow when experiencing a flare-up. However, I like to mention to my clients that every flare-up is completely different based on the injury, based on the increased level of pain and how irritable that flare-up is. But allow me to answer this question as best I can by breaking things down into a mild, a moderate, and a severe flare-up. Firstly, let's start with a mild flare-up, which is usually about 1 or 2 out of 10 above your baseline symptoms. Generally in this phase, running can continue, but at 50 to 80% of your pre-flare-up capacity. Also, you need to be more conservative on the hills or with speed work, depending on the type of injury. The same can be said for any cross-training that aggravates symptoms. Your rehab exercises can resume without modifications unless they include some sort of plyometrics, to which you'd make the necessary adjustments. Gradually return to pre-flare-up capacity following the acceptable pain rules in step 2, which might look something like increasing your volumes by 15 to 20% per week. For moderate flare-ups, typically 2 to 3 out of 10 above baseline, you need to stop running until the symptoms reach the mild flare-up conditions. Rehab can continue, but with some modifications. Drop the weight to 60 to 80% of your pre-flare-up weight. You can also reduce the range of movement of the exercise or regress the exercises in other ways, for example moving from a single leg calf raise to a double leg calf raise. Hopefully after a few days your symptoms have settled to that mild flare-up status and you can make the necessary progressions. If symptoms aren't improving, you may need to follow the major flare-up instructions, which are typically those who have pain at or above 4 out of 10 above their normal baseline symptoms. In these circumstances, you should take 2 to 3 days of relative rest. In the case of tendon injuries, some low load is permitted, often done in the form of isometrics, which is just another fancy term meaning you can hold the position while under load. For example, for an Achilles tendinopathy, an isometric calf raise can help settle symptoms, holding for 15 to 20 seconds, 3 sets, and you can do this 2 to 3 times a day to help preserve strength and help lower the pain levels. This is because loading the tendon in such a fashion can elicit an analgesic effect. In severe cases, sometimes pain medication can be permitted, but only for 1 to 2 days. And depending on the injury, some heat or some ice can be applied to temporarily reduce pain levels. However, if executed correctly, you should find your symptoms quickly settling so that you can execute the instructions within the moderate flare-up plan. What does this mean for Cody? Well, his pain when walking upstairs the next day was a 3 out of 10. Since his baseline symptoms were 0, we could count this as a moderate flare-up. So he decided to take 3 days off running and changed his half squats to quarter squats and reduced the height of his step-ups. These exercises caused a 1 out of 10 pain and quickly settled afterwards, so Cody knew he was on the right track and did these daily. 3 days later, Cody was feeling a lot better, so followed the mild flare-up instructions and tried a short 15-minute run and increased the range of movement of his rehab exercises, but he kept the weights at 80% of his pre-flare-up weight. It only took another 4 days and Cody was back to running and rehab without restrictions. He's seen the error of his ways, which led to the flare-up, and will commit to avoiding the same mistake in the future. This is an important point to make. You can learn from every flare-up. Make sure you identify the cause of the flare-up so it isn't repeated, and once you get your symptoms back under control, you can gain a better insight into your injury and gain reassurance just in case another flare-up happens in the future. If you're struggling to manage a flare-up or if you're seeing these flare-ups happen frequently, it's wise to seek additional help. And as explained in step 5, you can see a local therapist or you can jump on a free 20-minute injury chat with me. If you do see a local therapist, they may decide to do some sort of passive treatments such as massage, dry needling, shockwave, trigger point release, joint manipulations. The options are almost endless and they can be helpful in some circumstances, but there are some traps when heading in this direction, which is why I discuss it in step 7.